Hey guys, hope everything is going well. We have a repeat guest. It went well last time, so I thought, hey, let's bring him on. Upstate Sports Cards. What's going on, man?
It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invite. How are things going with you? Pretty well.
Yeah, good. What about you?
That's good. Good. Can't complain. We have like 4 or 5 inches of snow in upstate New York right now, which kind of sucks. But
Oh, damn, that's
it's
crazy.
it's ex- it's expected this time of the year. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's just an inconvenience for everybody, and you got to drive slower and all that fun stuff. Um, how are you and your family doing? Pretty well.
Yeah, good, good.
That's
You?
good. Can't complain. Everyone's doing well. Got winter concerts with the kids, stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting.
Okay.
Um, so how are you feeling about the Cubs off season? You guys got Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, no, we got Bellinger, and then we got this pitcher. What from the Yankees, right? I don't know too much about him.
Either, but I remember Bellinger was a great player a few years ago, and then he just kind of fell off. But maybe he'll work with a different hitting coach or something of that. Something like that could possibly help bring him back to the 2017 form. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. You're a what? Red Sox fan, from my understanding.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a mutt. So I like the Red Sox, I like the Dallas Cowboys, and then in basketball, I just like a bunch of different players and stuff. So I'm not a true basketball fan. Like if I had to pick, like Kobe's my favorite player of all time, and I like a bunch of just different players. I like Curry. I like to watch Ja. I like to watch Zion. I like to watch a bunch of different players and stuff. So I'm not a real true fan in basketball. I do have some like Boston Celtics hooded sweatshirts that I wear here and there, but nothing.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm a true fan. So
Okay. Alrighty. Let's take a look at some comments before we get into some of the topics we have in line. All right, let's look at this. David, hey guys, what's going on? Mike, what's going on? Another Mike, aka Extrinsic Collections, and also MNT Trading on Twitter. I really like your work. Brendan, what's going on, man? Paul, what's going on? All right, yeah, so some new faces here in the chat. Richard, what's going on? All right, maybe we should get into the PPP loan situation. This was a hot button topic that a lot of people discussed, including myself. So, what are your thoughts about this?
all for this was basically a public assistance for businesses from my basic 10-foot understanding like of the whole. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know it was an option on the table for businesses to basically keep their business sustainable in very dark times in terms of like in markets and stuff like that. So I'm all for like the businesses that truly needed it as allocated towards those business related functions, not going buying sports cards or go on vacation or doing this. As long as the money is deployed properly, I'm all for it. It is what it is because they're like the businesses are keeping the staff employed, and if the businesses aren't able to get that basically business stimulus, I guess you can kind of call it, it makes it so that there would be layoffs and that can devastate the economy more. So I understand that it was important and it was very vital for many businesses to keep going. But if we have like the Jeff Wilsons and other characters that were using the money towards other things not related towards business functions, then that's totally unacceptable in my book and many people's book. I don't have all the facts, but it does look a little funny, like how the guy was basically like living his best life in a time where he had his hand out for Uncle Sam and to bail him out. So I mean, maybe the money went towards things that were related to business. I don't know that. It's easy to judge and easy to say like it wasn't, but who knows? At the end of the day, we're not there, but it's a bad look though for sure.
Yeah, like my views, I don't know if you watched my opinion on this. What I first thought was okay, if people got the PPP loans, then you definitely needed the money. Or what could have been was that I think the interest rate was 1%. So that was really low. And I think for a business loan, I think you have to pay a higher interest rates. I mean, I don't want to put, I mean, I don't know what other business people had to pay depending on how well their balance sheet was. Maybe they got a better loan. But I think a lot of people just went at it when they shouldn't have because of the attractiveness of the loan. The second thing about the PPPs were that I blame the government for a lot of the issues that went on. I don't want to get too much into politics, but that's just the reality. You know, my problem is not with the influencers per se taking the money. It's mainly the government that created the problem. And I think part of the reason why the loans were forgiven, just my tinfoil hat, is infighting and rather people getting mad at the government, who I think should be the brunt of the blame. I think a lot of the blame is going to go after, you know, the Los Angeles Lakers or the collectors. Now it's called holdings. So a lot of the outrage are going to go to those guys that took the loans, probably didn't need the loans. And then I think that's why the loans were forgiven, in my opinion, unless you wanted to repay it back. Now, in regards to Jeff Wilson, here's the thing. So it was his marketing company at that time. I used to work in marketing, and in the marketing sector where I worked, if you lost a client, you had to lay people off. So I don't know what his situation was. I don't want to assume, but I think he said that he lost a client or two, and they probably had to make layoffs. So got a 1% loan. So what do you do if you're a business guy? I think a lot of business guys would just jump at it. But it is what it is. I'm not defending it per se because it's not a good look when you're a multimillionaire and going on vacation while people may have lost everything. You know, I've heard people lost their businesses. So that's how I look at it. I think I'm
houses and opportunities. Yeah. Is it cutting out?
Yeah, here and there, but go ahead.
Say, I just think that like a lot of people got burned due to COVID, like economically, and those are the people that could have used the help. And here there's a lot of people a lot of businesses that just basically like took this free handout and they just deployed the money towards other things not related to their business. It'd be really interesting to see like if they hire all these 75,000 IRS agents to see if they would kind of go back into like where the money was deployed and maybe try to possibly in a way like where they could see how was the money spent? Was it spent towards business related stuff or was it spent on, you know, living the lavish lifestyle? You know, like that would be really interesting to see if they're going to employ that many people with the IRS. Like, why not go back into it? But maybe since now it's forgotten, like it's been forgiven, maybe they're just not going to go down that rabbit hole at this point. So maybe it might be easier for them at that point. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So.
I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of the IRS agents go after the average Joe. So if you're selling sports cards and you get a 1099 from Venmo or PayPal, they're going to make sure that, okay, you're not taking any shortcuts here and there. But we shall see. Maybe they're going to go after the rich, but that's just my opinion.
One guy that FTX guy. They really
Yeah,
should.
Yeah, that dude, he paid off Congress, both parties. So it's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like a decade ago, I don't know if you remember. Have you heard of MF Global, the futures firm?
Paid off and stuff, or was
No,
that...
no, it's a different guy. It was a guy named Corzine, John Corzine. He was the governor of New Jersey. He ran a futures firm. That firm blew up, but he paid off the politicians, so he didn't go to jail. So I think that he's going to get off light just like Corzine did. All right, let's take a look at some comment. I can't hear you. Did you say anything?
Just saying it was funny how that works. How like basically, you know, people could just pay people off and all that other crap. It's just, you know, people do the right thing and maybe make a slight mistake. They get the book thrown at them, and then if they're, you know, FTX or, you know, other higher up people, they just throw money at the problems and they go away. You know, it kind of sucks.
Indeed, indeed. Let's look at some comments. Bob Boozle, I only watch the winners. That's why I watch AIH Sports.
I like that.
Paul says, what part of Upstate are you? He's in Utica from Rochester.
South of Albany. So I'm about 30 to 40 minutes south of Albany. I'm basically like so most people think New York is like the city and stuff like that. Like I'm actually in like a very um, maybe 10,000 people in Hudson in the Hudson area. There's not a lot of like it's not a huge metropolitan city or anything like that. So I'm like close to like I want to say I'm about 40 minutes north of Poughkeepsie. From Utica, I'm about 2 hours away. I went to college at Utica College. That's where I got my bachelor's. So yeah, it's a couple hours from me.
Okay. Michael says, I think we're too quick to assume the free handout description, the shutdowns and mandates made it hard to perform business. Yeah, I agree with that too. That's where I blame the U.S., not the U.S. government, but the states also for that. All right, let's look at this. Blaze One Sports says, what up? What's going on? Let's try to avoid the Chicago and New York pizza debates. I'm all for deep dish. Are you a thin crust guy?
I'm a thin crust guy. I mean, I try to watch the carbs here and there. I mean, I do binge out on crap food here and there, but like honestly, like I'm all for any kind of good pizza. I wouldn't say no to any pizza that's like any of Chicago's best pizza. I'm sure I wouldn't turn it down.
Yeah, deep dish is awesome here. Mike says, just join your channel. Love your content. Thanks for letting us know what's going on. Thanks.
The chat.
Yep. Bob says, PU, some of these PP loans smell fishy. Yes, they do. Some people were using it for Pokemon cards. I wouldn't be surprised if some people use it for sports cards. All right. No one is giving Mark Cuban half as much grief as Jeff Wilson about PPP loans. Did Mark Cuban get PPP loans? I don't know about that.
To be honest, I don't want to go out there and say something if I'm not 100% myself. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that you had, what is it called? Tom Brady got PPP loans. So, or his company. So, I mean, if people get mad at Jeff Wilson, which is fine, right? Then we should be mad at Tom Brady, who I like, right? So I think we have to be treating everyone equally here, especially the Los Angeles Lakers. They paid it back though. So
I was thinking about covering would be like the auction houses and how maybe they're making things too enticing for people. Like they're making it seem like their card, because if there's people that bought their cards 6 months ago, maybe they're trying to kind of bait sellers to sell cards. And there's also loans attached to some of these very expensive cards, and I wonder if people are just defaulting on their loans against their cards, and then that's why we keep seeing like the Brady Contenders card keep comping in every single major auction house, and the Jordan Fleer 10s and those types of cards. It's really interesting because maybe if it was different, maybe we wouldn't be seeing like an influx of supply on these auction houses. Like even like the Premier auction, it used to start out with like 100. I don't been on the Premier auction. That's not where I'm just not there. That's not something I do. But I'm just saying to myself, like, why do they go from 100 items to 400 and 500 items in an auction? Like that's just too much for people to want to bid on. The buyer pool is already small as it is at that point. Once you get to I think it's like $15,000 or $20,000 in higher cards. I think that there's a lot. The buyer pool shrinks. So like there are people that are setting new records on these cards, and like the PMGs, the rubies, and like all these other like very rare cards. But then you see like the Brady Contenders card that it just keeps comping and comping and comping, and the Brady Chrome cards, like all the cards where a lot of people have multiples of, you keep seeing them come up for sale, and I think that it's not a good thing for the market at this point. But I get why maybe somebody got a Jordan Fleer 10 6 years ago for, $18,000 and they're still way up. Maybe there's people that are going to just start running those cards to auction just to keep the, just to make their money at this point, maybe secure their this point.
Yeah, I have a few theories. I think part of it, I used to do it myself. So if the stock market's going up, you may take some money from your account, your personal account, to use it for your expenses. And people that were also invested in crypto, while the market was going up, they probably took money out. Now the market has gone down, so maybe they're not taking money out. And thus they're saying, okay, what item has gone up for me, even though, the market has gone down maybe 80% for some cards, they're just maybe selling it at these auctions. And then the second thing is, like you mentioned earlier, with leverage. I don't know if you watched my video with P. Ryan.
I basically, because in between jobs and stuff, like on my way to work,
Yeah.
I go on YouTube, sports cards, and I get like you, a bunch of other people and stuff like that. So I always play through everybody, that I listen to. And how long ago was that? Like a week or so ago, or?
It was about like 4 weeks ago. He's a big account on Instagram if you don't follow him, but he received word that people are saying that PWCC, people had items in their vault, they were levered, and then the card value, the market value just went down significantly. So allegedly PWCC said that, okay, you signed a contract, we're going to sell these cards, whatever the price is, just to make sure that we're not going to lose money. So that's what's going on, is that part of it is some of these auction houses, maybe a PWCC, is facing pressure, maybe from their lenders. Maybe they're worried about not default risk, but they're worried about the value just going under. So they're trying to get the most amount. So I think that's why you're seeing supply as well hitting the market. And also you're in a down market, so they got to protect themselves. I think that's what's going on, in my opinion.
Good point. I just feel like, when in like certain segments of sports cards, like for instance, like I have a very large interest in 90s football, and I'm kind of cringing a little bit because I feel that I'm early to the show, but I see that it's getting to be real trendy. And what's going to happen is there's just going to be an influx of supply that's going to drive the prices down. So it's kind of like you can get to Plymouth Rock before a bunch of people, but once you're there and you're sitting there, like you're gonna kind of be like looking around like, oh crap, is the every market's gonna start getting flooded with 90s stuff because that seems to be the hot topic or the hot flavor of this quarter, I guess you could say, and it's just once you see all these record setting cards of like Jerry Rice PMGs and Reggie White PMGs and stuff like that, people are gonna be like, oh, I have one of those, I'm gonna just auction it off. And I just think that's very detrimental to the hobby when you get too many people just flushing big cards out like that. And then, I try to get cards at this point right now. Like I try to get cards that I could buy that are so low pop that maybe one or two sell for the next 2 to 3 years. And I don't have to worry about it because I'm not looking to day trade those cards. They're just like obscure 90s cards that I don't really, I grew up, I like those cards. Like I'm not worried about the dollar and cent value. And I think too many people right now are just wrapped up with like, oh, it's worth this much. Like that's the first thing they'll say about their card. Oh, it's worth this much. Wait a minute. What about the pack odds? Like, what about that card? It's not something you see in everybody's showcases at card shows and stuff. And it's, like for instance, if I win a card on auction for $400 and someone offers me $1,000, I'd rather just keep the card than the $1,000. Like that's kind of like my mentality right now with cards. Like if I buy something for $300 and someone's like, oh, I'll give you $500. No, I don't want. I rather have the card at this point. Like I believe in it long term. And you see a lot of these cards of like Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, and stuff like that. Like 8 months ago, they were $1,500. Now they're like $200. Cards that I'm picking up, they might go down half, they might go down 30% or whatever, but I'm not worried about it. And if people had more of that mindset, I think the hobby would be in a better place instead of it's like prospecting with like these Jalen Greens and Cade Cunninghams and Evan Mobleys and stuff. Like if a De'Aaron Fox card a National Treasure card is like $2,000 or $3,000, but Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley National Treasure cards, which there are more of at this point because 2017 versus 2020 or 2021 supply is way different. And De'Aaron Fox has a better statistical categories than these other guys, these prospects. I just think that it's just people are buying into the hype and it's just not good. Like they're just going to get burned. And, you know, I'm very, what's the word I'm looking for? I say a lot of hot takes on like social media, on a lot of different posts and stuff like that, because I like to share my knowledge. My knowledge is free. I don't know everything. I don't claim to. I've made many mistakes with cards and predicting values and stuff like that. But like, if a De'Aaron Fox National Treasures is $2,000 and a comparable player like Jalen Green, who's not as good at this point, is selling for $25,000, why? Why is that? And I think people should really pay attention to these large Instagram accounts that are selling these $8,000 Kyle Trask cards or these $6,000 Kellen Mond cards and all these obscure players that they were cool for 2 days on Slab Stocks. They made a post about Kellen Mond, and now like everybody loses their shit and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go buy this card now because it seems like a great idea. Like I don't understand, you know. And then like you see these big, like the Jaylen Brown National Treasures logo man card. I guess there was like a sale of like 60K on the card. It's
Right.
not even player worn. I mean, from my understanding of the set, National Treasures, it's not player worn. So you just basically got a made in China sweatshop patch in the card, and there's multiple people that went in and bought the card. So does that really count as a true sale? Because now when you go to try to sell that card, you have 3 or 4 people that purchased that card, and now it's like, wait a minute, like, is that card now worth like a fourth if there's 4 people because one person paid this? Like, it just gets really like confusing right now in the hobby, and I try not to understand. I don't judge people for how they spend their money. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, but at the end of the day, it's like that just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you go and buy Jaylen Brown National Treasures card and he's like the 35th best player in the league? Right? It's just too much talent. Like everybody's good. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in contact with actually one of the guys that is the part owner of that card. Well, this one individual, I don't know if you follow. Do you follow Hobby Shark on Instagram?
I might follow that. Okay, that sounds familiar.
Okay, like he got suspended because he made the allegation yesterday that at least one of the guys involved in the transaction that I just wanted clarification from, that he was accused of like doing some hanky panky. Maybe, bidding it up, maybe having a relationship with Alt. The guy, he refuted those claims. I asked him, hey, what's going on with this Hobby Shark? He made these allegations at you. And he said, no, it's nothing. Nothing's going on. I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm like, okay. And I messaged Alt, what they had to say, but they messaged Hobby Shark saying that no, there's no relationship with this individual and Alt, right? So it is what it is. To each
Alt
their
has a
own.
great credibility. I don't think Alt has the best credibility in the hobby. Like their values on cards are just ass backwards, in my opinion. They're just like, they'll say their cards, this is the value, but just because that's the value doesn't mean someone's going to pay for it. And like I've seen the values, they'll have a value on a specific card, and then when it goes to auction, it sells for 30% less than what they expected. And I get it; they can't predict values of like exact dollar and cents, but I just wouldn't trust that platform. I'm an eBay guy. Like I feel eBay has the most amount of cards in terms. I like the late '90s stuff, so there's more of that stuff that's out there. And I don't have to like. I'm buying these cards from accounts on eBay that are smaller eBay accounts where I feel like they just put a bin, they post it up, and I just make an offer, and if my offer is good, then the card gets transacted. I don't have to worry about someone that has the card. I'm not bidding against 5 people that have interest in that card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're looking where no one else is looking, and you're not spending an arm and a leg on a new platform. And I do prefer eBay as well. So what do you think about grading with Golden? I think they're going to have more cards that are affordable for the common guy rather than, tens of thousands of dollars or $100,000 cards. Do you think that's good for the market, or do you think that is bad for the market?
Best person to ask about card grading. I've sent out so back in 2020, I sent out like in a bunch of different submissions. I sent out literally 1,000 different cards, Pokemon, just stuff that I thought looked clean enough to get a grade, where maybe 8, 9, or 10, depending on what it is and who it was. And I got crushed. Excuse me. I got crushed on a lot of those grades and stuff like that. And I was cringing every single time my group submitter would tell me that my grades are going to get ready to pop, because it's like I'll spend $1,500 in grades to get about $800 in cards, like based upon like this stuff. Because the thing is, they held my cards hostage for almost a year and a half, year and almost 2 years at this point. I mean, I have all my stuff back, but it's like the plastic is worth more than the cards, and that's a people problem at the end of the day. Like, I sent my cards in, many other people sent their cards in, but I expected my cards back in 4 to 6 months, like the brand said. Like that, like PSA said that my cards would come back in 4 to 6 months, and add on a year in a soft market and the cards are worth nothing. You know, they got murdered. You know what I mean? I got a lot of 6s, 7s, 8s, stuff like that. So to me, I would never grade cards again. Like, I buy only graded cards, but like at this point, it's literally, if you have a card, like, everybody grades cards at the end of the day. Like, I don't care what people say. Like, I feel that anything that has significant value, like Bowman Chrome autos of like top prospects, that stuff is all picked through. I don't like, if people are spending the money on the wax, they could spend the money and wait for the grading and stuff like that. And like with Golden doing the grading service, I just think there's just too much going on. I think it's just too many like gimmicks that are being pitched to people and stuff. It's like, why can't you send it out yourself? You know what I mean? Why can't you just use a group submitter? I think it's just more of like, hey, this is our platform. This is an extra feature we have. And there's nothing wrong with it, I guess, but it's not something that I would be looking into doing. And I just think that anything that's worth grading would get sent out from the people that originally pulled the cards.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, like the 90s stuff, it's all like, that stuff's not going to grade well. Like, if you send something in from the late 90s, early 2000s, you're going to get really low grades, and it's low, and the standard's high. All for it, though.
So the thing is that you made some interesting points about group submitters. So I've heard people saying that group submitters swap out cards. I'm not accusing the group submitter that you use. I still don't know who you use, but we don't need to put names out there. But that if it's a card that's not numbered, where you can't detect it, then they'll just say, okay, we may have one of this, and then we're going to swap out one of our bad cards and you have one of the good cards. Do you think that goes on?
My guy that I worked with didn't do it. He's a private guy. He's he knew my son through like baseball from like little league and stuff like that. That never came across my mind with the guy I used. He did the right thing. He never did anything. And it was cards I was sending in were cards that like, they were just like different cards. Like, I mean, I guess anything could happen, but that never crossed my mind. But I'm sure like with a lot of group submitters, I'm guaranteed that happens quite a bit. Like with like base cards, like refractors, like you said, anything that's not numbered. Yeah, I'm sure it does happen. I wouldn't be surprised. They're playing with people's money and stuff like that at the end of the day, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at some more comments here. Behind on this, PPP loans, PSA got one also. Apparently, yes, they did. They returned it, or it's their old company, Collectors Universe. Now it's called Collectors Holding. Michael says PSA grading prices during COVID were insane. Yes, indeed. Infinite investment game. What's going on? People are over leveraged in cards, so they are selling. Exactly. Also, people see the market is declining and they're selling high price comp cards because they can buy back cheaper. That could be the case as well. Yeah, that's what I'm doing with like some Brady's. I needed the money and I didn't want to dip into my funds. So, I just sold some Brady's and then I'm going to probably upgrade at for the Bowman Chrome cards, his rookie, the 2000 number 236. That's what's on my eyeballs right now. Chris C says people.
Market well. You've timed. I'm sorry. You've timed the market like in terms of like you see that there's buying opportunities. Like some of these cards are getting low enough in values where you're like, hey, maybe now's a good time to get in. Like it's a 3-year low at this point. That's the best time to buy cards.
I think I lost you. I think one of us froze.
Like it's good to do your research like you're doing with like looking for these Brady cards. Like you're putting in the work, looking to see which ones like drop the most, and maybe that's the best buying opportunity you can possibly get into at this point right now.
Indeed. And then now he's going to retire. The Buccaneers look terrible. So maybe after he retires, whenever that will be. So, all right. The worst thing I run into is I'm into it for too much. How is that my problem? Market goes up, it goes down. Not going to overpay for a card because you bought it at a peak. Yep. All right. Let's look at some more comments here. Damien says, I'm all for eBay, no shady stuff. I mean, eBay, they still have their problems with the zero review, people shill bidding, that's a problem, but I still like eBay.
Yes, like this is the first time I'll say this. Like I have like a new eBay account and like I've won things recently and it scares the shit out of people because they see a low feedback. And I think that's kind of like a genius way of buying stuff. I mean, maybe it's manipulation or something, but like if I'm bidding on something and I see a 0 or 5 feedback account, I'm going to be like, what the hell is going on? This is like a new account. It's definitely being shilled. But then there's sometimes legit low feedback accounts where people are just like, their app went bad on their phone. They don't remember the password. They don't remember the username. And now they have a new eBay account. And like, it's kind of like a good way to buy cards because it scares the hell out of people because they're like, oh, this guy's got 3 feedback. It's being shilled. I'm out. I'm not going to bid any higher. So maybe that could be like a way, like a reason why things are selling cheap too. And along with many other reasons like the, economy and stuff like that as well. That's like where, you see like small, feedback accounts bidding, maybe they're legit, maybe they're not. Most likely they're not, but there's times like I have a smaller feedback on my eBay and like I'm sure it scares the hell out of people, which
if they pay, I don't care,
Exactly.
All right, Cblaz, what's going on? We need the return time from grading companies to be accurate so we can project out what will be happening in sports when the cards will be coming back. The thing is that they're so unpredictable and they have so many things, PSA, what grades so many things now. They even grade Funko Pops. So
also to touch on that point too, like you can do the work and get a lot of good, clean, raw cards, like in the dollar boxes, ripping packs, whatever. Now, if you get like Jalen Hurts cards right now, you send them in like at this $15 special, the cards are going to come back at the worst possible time. Or, like basketball, like for instance, you send out basketball cards now, you're at the mercy of PSA getting those cards back to you in season. And that never works well because like it's for every sport. Like if you send out baseball cards, basketball, football, hockey, the probability of those cards coming at the peak time in the market, like you could say, okay, here's Jalen Hurts silver, Prism silver, for instance. I got a few of them. I think they're going to be 9s and 10s. You send those cards out. He's, I guess you'd at that point go to like a higher service level. Maybe that's a bad example for that card, but like for instance, like anything, like you send the cards out, they're never going to come back at the right time. And that's a big problem with PSA. And that's why I don't bother sending cards out because it's the new flavor of the week. Like Jalen Hurts is great, but then let's just say this is week 2 and I send the cards out, I get them in 3 months. What happens if he's hurt? That's not PSA's fault. Like, I can't get mad at PSA, but like, if I was expecting the cards back in 2 months and it's 4 months and now he's hurt or it's the end of the season, what do I do? Like, I got to hold those cards. Like, I didn't buy them to and pay the grading fees to hold them. They're usually stuff to buy and flip and then put the money into meaningful cards.
Yeah, and the thing is,
Often, you know.
what if Jalen Hurts doesn't perform well in the playoffs? What if he chokes like Lamar Jackson did a few years ago? You know, I've always been suspicious of mobile quarterbacks, even though Jalen Hurts is very talented for the long term. Maybe in the short term, if they have a solid defense, they could pull it off, in my opinion. I mean, teams won with, what's his name? Trent Dilfer back in the day. So
He's a Super Bowl winner. Nick Foles has a Super
yeah,
Bowl. He has
yeah,
as many
exactly.
Super Bowls as Mahomes.
Yeah,
Wow.
there you go. So it's possible. So you got a solid defense and you're young, you could run. Okay, you could make it. But what if he does a Lamar Jackson? Then, you know.
Basically, I mean, that's what happened. That's how Brady got in. Brady got in because Bledsoe got leveled by, like, I think it was Mo Lewis in the playoffs or towards the end of the season, and Brady got thrown in, and the rest is history.
I think is the third game of the year.
It's early. Gotcha.
You know, it was the tuck rule that got Brady deeper into the playoffs from my memory. It was against the Oakland Raiders. Remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, it was snowing and stuff. I remember watching that. Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing with grading for me. Like, I just don't even bother. Like, I know that people can make money with grading and stuff like that, but like, I'm not putting properly that my cards are going to come. That first of all, they're going to gem, and two, that they're going to come back at a time where the market says that the cards are worth a decent amount. And like look at Christian Hernandez. Like, you're a Cubs fan. Like, he was the flavor of the year last year and stuff like that. And his cards, like, are now this guy on the Brewers, Churio, his cards are priced so much higher than guys like Christian Hernandez and other top prospects. And he's not even ranked in the top 100. So it's not bother with those types of players and cards anymore. I just not out like that.
Yeah, and just the flavor of the week, you spoke about the Brewers. So remember Christian Yelich? He was just amazing. Before the pandemic, I saw like, oh man, I got to get some Christian Yelich cards before they go insane. But then he has back problems now. I mean, who wants to collect Christian Yelich or speculate in them, right? No one. Yeah.
He had a great MVP year, yeah, and he just like fell off. And that's why, like, with baseball, it's tough. Like, I'm an Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera kind of guy. They're, legendary players, and I just hope they weren't doing PEDs and any of that kind of crap.
Yeah, that's the thing. But do you think baseball would go after them at this point? Because Pujols has 700 home runs. I mean, that'd be a black eye for the MLB.
Crushed. I probably wouldn't watch baseball much anymore. I wouldn't. I'd be crushed. I mean, look at all the people that like Tatis. Like how do you like recover from that? Like, you just you put all your eggs in one basket, thinking that this guy is the Mickey Mantle of this generation, and now he's always like Jason Dominguez too. Like, that dude's big. Like, anything, but you never know. You're literally at the mercy of someone else's decision making with sports cards.
I think the most insane part was that you had, I think, one Dominguez card or some guy from the Yankees, some prospect. Their card sold more than the Derek Jeter PSA 10. What was the 1992 SP or 1993 SP 279?
Yeah, foil. Yeah, that just makes no sense. Yeah.
Some hanky panky probably. Chris says grading is a cash grab and is filled with corruption with PSA at the forefront of it. I'll keep raw. Yeah, there's hanky panky all over for sure.
Yeah. Well, not just PSA. I'm sure it's SGC, BGS, stuff like that. I'm more of a BGS guy personally. I mean, I know the market doesn't like
Even with the new CEO and all that.
the stuff that I like's already been graded. It's, you know what I mean? I hope they don't
Yeah.
change the ugly new logo and stuff like that. Like, they literally look like a brand new grading company, like a pop-up one that just, you know, like an ISA or C, whatever, 3-letter acronyms. You know, I selling PSA at one point, and I think maybe, there's like a tinfoil hat take. Like, maybe junk slabs that have PSA brand like labels on them, people might just see that, oh, there's not as many BGS slabs that have been saturated on the market. And BGS to me is more of like a luxury card. Like, they're more for like RPAs and like rare refractors and like higher end, like Luca Gold Prism cards and LeBron Topps Chrome Golds. Like, you won't ever see a LeBron Topps Chrome Gold in a SGC or CSG slab or ISA or Tag or any of these other companies and stuff like that. Like, they're in these specific holders for a reason. And just because the recency bias, because like for instance, like Wander Franco, like, you're not going to send a Bowman Chrome Mega Box Mojo card to BGS because that's like a charts and graphs kind of card. You're like the disparity of like the values are going to be so like up and down because like True Gem Plus and mini gems and stuff like that, where the PSA 10 makes it very simple. That's why the PSA 10 is always going to be the charts and graphs types of cards, if that makes any sense. Like, certain cards are meant for certain grading companies in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a good point. For sure, for sure. All right. As far as PSA, their very first in grading was found to be trimmed. Long history of inaccurate grading. Yeah, I think someone told me about that. Maybe Ryan McClanahan. Chris C says, ask Ty, I think from Bench Clear Media about PSA. Yeah, that's a disaster. What are your thoughts about that?
It's really like, I'm not surprised. Like, that's a great, I like that channel too. Like, it's great network over there at Bench Clear. Those guys do a great job. They put out great, meaningful content. Yeah, that's just not surprised at the end of the day, and to think that, oh, don't say something about it. Come on. This is 2022. Like, we're going to find out.
Yeah, it's just,
it's
these
interesting.
NDAs. It's interesting. Contender Sports Cards on IG says, you guys are scaring me. I just gave my group submitter $16,000 for grading with PSA and SGC. Hopefully it comes back to you, right? I mean, there was Mark's cards, right? After seeing Mark's cards, I'm like, I'm never going to do this. I was skeptical from the beginning, and then I saw that, and then I saw some foreign group submitters, someone in Europe where the packaging got lost. So the group submitter may be doing everything right, but you have no control over FedEx, USPS, UPS, whoever's used, because we've sent packages and USPS lost it or someone stole it. So that's my take on it. Hopefully nothing happens to you, though, by the way.
And hopefully you have a check, you paid with a check, and then maybe, worst case, you could still, recoup losses at that point. I mean, I don't like to see people like get screwed up.
Yep. All right, let's look at through some more comments here. Trading cards immortal. Grading should be easier for the average person, not harder. Not making it more accessible is a problem, but you also can't be sending in base cards. The cards got to be worth grading. Indeed, yeah, they have to be, like a scarce rookie card or an RPA card of a, good prospect or of an individual that is a Hall of Famer. But I prefer buying the slabs because it's already been graded. So, and a lot of the slabs right now are much less than what they were 18, 19 months ago. So it's much more affordable, in my opinion. So what
into the hobby too, because the point of I'm saying it's a great time for people to get into the hobby right now because the point of entry is just so low. And like, I'm seeing on like Facebook groups, like a lot of new people actually coming into the hobby because like I'm seeing posts like, I'm gonna be buying Prism Draft, collegiate stuff. I want to grade and flip and stuff like that. Like when you see certain posts and certain comments, you can tell that certain people are new in the hobby. So like that's kind of a good thing. Like there's a lot of people that are leaving, but there's also some people that are coming in at the same time, in my opinion. So it's hard to gauge like how much new participants we're actually getting at this point.
Indeed. Randy says, if PSA returned the PPP loan, did Jeff Wilson return his PPP loan? I don't think his business, what is it, 342 or whatever it's called, I don't think they returned it. A lot of these companies got it forgiven, so it is what it is.
Their content and stuff like that, that's the best way they could kind of show that they're not happy with certain things. Like just don't watch their content anymore. Like if you don't agree with certain people's that, don't engage in their stuff. Like I would just unfollow certain accounts like that and just not engage. Just like immediately just discredit them. And it's kind of a shame because like new people are going to see that channel first. That's like the poster thing, and it's like that sucks.
So I was thought, when I got into watching content, I was in sports cards before I got on YouTube talking about sports cards. And I really liked Jeff Wilson's channel because the pandemic was crazy. Whatever your politics are, I needed an escape. And I watched Jeff Wilson. I watched Dustin and a few of the other channels that were promoted via the algorithm. It kept me sane. And now, after looking at it, I'm looking at Jeff Wilson's content, it is more objective than it was beforehand. So I'll give him credit for that. But, a lot of people are not rich. I'm in the middle class. I think you're in the middle class too. And a lot of new people, they're going to see, a rich guy like that. And I don't know if there's, big channels that suit the middle class average dude. You know what I'm saying? The sports card radio definitely does. They do rub some people the wrong way, but for the people trying to get content to understand what's going on, I mean, Jeff Wilson's channel is good at times, but then at times I think he may be in his own bubble because he probably interacts with people that are of his income status, like Ken Golden, right? So I think that's the issue.
He's very unrelatable to people, like a lot of people, like you couldn't just go like out to lunch one day, like, you know what I mean? Like if there's like people from out of town, they all meet up. Hey, let's go out, grab some pizza. You know what I mean? He's not one of those kind of guys that would engage with people that are middle class people. You could just tell, and it is what it is. Like I'm not here to label people and stuff like that, but like you could tell he's very unrelatable to most people in the hobby. Most people in the hobby are buying cards that are $2,000 and under. Like I would say a good 90% of the people. And it's almost like there's different classes in the hobby. And like it sucks to say that, but it's like that's what it looks like from like as from content. Like most people aren't buying LeBron James Topps Chrome Gold Refractors. People are not buying the MJ Fleer and all those types of cards. And it is what it is. Like there's just different levels to like people's success in life. And just because someone is buying a Topps Chrome Gold Refractor LeBron James doesn't mean that they're better than people. And it just seems like that's where people are like, that's where the attention goes towards these like, I spent $25,000 or I spent this or I spent that. And like that's what it shouldn't be about that. It should always be about the cards. It should always be about the grind, the hustle, what it took to get those cards, not just, oh, I'm some rich asshole and I could just go buy cards and stuff like that. That I don't know. I just think people should really kind of wake up at this point and just say, I couldn't relate to this person. I'm not going to engage and watch their content. Like I just think that's just my opinion at this point. Like if more people had that mindset, I think you'd the sports card investor would see their insights and stuff like their channel wouldn't grow as much because the people are basically they're voting with their attention in a way. Like their time, they're not spending the time in watching their content and engaging as much because they're just like, this isn't relatable to me. Like, I don't buy those types of cards. I don't care that the MJ Fleer is down $30,000 this month, or it just sold for an extra, or the MJ Fleer sold for $300,000. Like, like the one thing that I don't like in the hobby is like everybody's like, oh, the Jordan Fleer crashed. It went from 750,000 to 150. The one that sold for 750 was like a top 15% eye appeal. That's not every Jordan Fleer card. Like a lot of them are like off centered, have edge problems. There's all like different like faded copies, stuff like that. So like when content creators say, "Oh, the MJ Fleer crashed," it didn't crash. Like the card's still up a lot from 2018, 2019, 2020 and stuff. So it's all about narratives and stuff that people want to spin, and it is.
Yeah, I mean, you make some good points here regarding the Jordan card. I think there were some auctions on Golden, and there's an auction on PWCC. I think that's where you're talking about, like the top 15%. So on Golden, I think what rubbed people the wrong way was that Golden, he was doing what was in his own best interest, which is fine, right? His own company. But he had like 40 Fleer, not four, I don't want to put words in my mouth. He had a lot of Fleer PSA 10s. So he wasn't putting all those cards at once, because if he put all those cards at once, it would have destroyed the market. So he put a card here, a card there. And then I think some of those cards hit 700,000 as well. So I think that's what rubbed people the wrong way. So that's why people are saying like, hey, look, this thing crashed hard. And a lot of people were buying, close to the top. They were buying close to the top for that, the Rock, the Bumblebee card, $90,000, right? So
It was like nothing. That's the craziest part. It's just people want to like buy these cards to make comps, and they get multiples, and then they're like, okay, now all these cards are this much because they made, like the Jordan Fleer, for instance, if they make comps at 700,000 and they own 6 of them, printing their own money in a way, like if you think about it, because they actually buy it and pay for it at 700. Now that makes all the other ones that they have 700, and they didn't pay that much. So it's a lot of that kind of manipulation that goes on.
Indeed. Just look at this. Jay, I've had some messages with him back and forth. He says PPP is a political issue. Talk to Congress. Did anyone on this chat return a stimulus check? I think the thing is that, it's more of a government issue. They shut everything down. That's my issue. So if people in the middle class, had nothing to do with this shutting down, they're getting stimulus checks. What are you going to do with it, right? PPP loan, you had to actually go to a bank and apply. So I think that's what it was. I think we lost you. I don't think I heard you.
No, I was just saying that, like with the PPP loans, like there's a lot involved to get those loans and stuff like that. The stimulus check, if 15 people sent their check back, it wouldn't make a difference. These PPP loans that are $2 million, $3 million, that's actual, like, those are real numbers. You know what I mean? Not $1,000 checks.
Indeed. We have probably like 5-10 more minutes. So, what do you think the direction Fanatics is going? We talked about Fanatics last time. Do you remember that? We're talking about Luber. Luber's out from what it looks like. So, do you think they're doing a good job, or it's still way too early?
Acquired Tops, or they bought Tops. It's been like what, a year at this point, right? I mean, like I think the only noteworthy thing they've done is like this buyback thing for those Aaron Judge and Goldschmidt cards, which I have a cool idea. Like, why not give those cards to like kids that are in Little League and stuff like that? Like, I feel like Tops and Fanatics could do something to help kids like in Little League, like get them more engaged with sports cards, and like basketball. Like, why not like maybe if Panini gets bought out, why not do a collaboration with like schools, like kids, like they just get base cards like Hoops, Donruss, like the smaller sets, not like National Treasures or anything like that, but like get more kids involved. Like, I haven't seen any Tops commercials, Fanatics commercials, other than like jerseys and like apparel. Like, what are they doing there? Like, I don't get it. Like, we see a lot of supply still sitting on the shelves at like the retail stores. I see a lot of breaks that don't get filled as much. I guess maybe it's because the economic climate we're in right now, but also like people are just realizing they printed the shit out of this stuff, and it's like, if I buy a hobby box for $500, I'm gonna get $30 in cards. Like, you do just gonna say the hell with this, and I think that's what's going on. Like, people are just they're buying breaks and not being ROI positive, and like there's it like to me buying cards like through like buying wax is just it's just pure gambling, and like more than likely you're gonna lose, and people can't. There's too much going on. Eggs are $4.50 a dozen right now in the stores. Milk is still like people have like real life things to pay for, and like why go buy a hobby box to lose? Unless you're just that well off and you don't care, then that's something different. But most people in the hobby aren't like that right now.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, inflation is a problem and things are back to normal. People have to drive more often to work. A lot of people are doing like a hybrid schedule, working at home versus going to the office. And things are getting back to normal now. And, that's a problem. And speaking of kids earlier, I don't know. I don't like the direction of how they're targeting kids. And I don't know what your thoughts about card porn is. I've done probably way too many videos regarding that, but I believe that, or from what I saw, they're running this, Instagram channel, Kids with Kid Care or Card Care or whatever it's called. And, does it make sense for a page managed by, someone with the name porn posting pictures of kids? People will have debate about that. I don't like that. And then I saw some pages, trying to get kids involved in breaks. I mean, we should start with the collecting, right? I think you have kids. I mean, I think I wouldn't, if I had kids, I'd want them to get into collecting before all that stuff. And I don't think that's a good way for the future, because you want people to invest long term, sure, but is this the way? I don't think so.
Like the gateway, like it's almost like the gateway drug in terms of like cards. Like, breaks shouldn't be the point of entry. It should be like, who's your favorite team? For me, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Of players that I actually liked growing up. So, for instance, let's just say a normal 30-year-old person, they're a 49ers fan. They watch Steve Young, Jerry Rice, for instance. Why don't they buy those cards? They rather go and buy these Davis Mills, Kellen Mond, Jalen Green, Kyle Trask, all these obscure players to flip. It should always be about the cards, not I want to buy this to go make this, and that's all a gamble and stuff like that. Like, people should stick to their roots. Like, everybody that would be in the sports cards, there's core teams that they grew up watching. Their dad watched the Vikings. Their mom liked the Yankees, so they're Yankee fans and stuff like that. Why can't it always be about that? Like, there's just too many people are worried about the comps and the comps and comps and comps. It's ass backwards to me. It should always be about your roots in the hobby. Who are the players that you grew up liking and watching, and go after, like, do the research, find out those cool sets that you never knew about when you were younger, and explore those sets and buy cards that are you're not going to worry about watching the comps and the charts and graphs on those cards. You're going to buy those cards because you appreciate the artwork and the nostalgic aspect of these cards. Like, that should always be what it's about. And like, there's so many people in the hobby right now, they're only trying to sell the Anthony Edwards Blue Prism BGS 95 because they're trying to make $300 profit and stuff like that. Like, it should always be about the cards. And it's like, so many people, their agendas are like, let's pump and dump these players and cards and stuff like that. Like, how are Star Wars cards and Marvel PMGs and like that stuff 5 years ago was worth nothing, and now they're like $15,000 for a sticker auto of a Star Wars card. Like, they're just, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently
I stay in my lane.
apparently I'm being too negative for, calling it out. But it is what it is.
The
So
right thing, and I admire the work you put in day in and day out. I really do. There should be more channels like you. So
appreciate it. Yeah, do you have any final thoughts before we head off?
people should go back to their roots in the hobby. They really should find out some players that were like their heroes growing up. Like I like Troy Aikman on Cowboys. There's not a lot of Troy Aikman collectors and people, and those cards aren't liquid. Like that's what people would say. Oh, why would you go and buy Troy Aikman and stuff? That's what I like. You know what I mean? I don't care what the values are, because at the end of the day, 20 years from now, I believe that those cards are going to be something, and not these, Joe Burrow optic hollows and stuff like that people are chasing. Like, they're worried about the comps and stuff like that. Like, I buy cards where people could offer me 2, 3, 4x what I paid for it. I just rather keep the card. That's just where I am. And if more people had that mindset, I think the hobby would be in a better place than it is today.
Indeed. And before I let you go, where can people follow you?
On Instagram. I'm just a private collector. I like to engage in the hobby and make hot takes and try to educate other participants in the hobby. You can find me at Upstate Sports Cards on Instagram. That's Upstate_sports_cards. Feel free to reach out to me if you guys ever have any questions or anything like that. I try my best to get back to people, and I approachable person. So I appreciate this opportunity tonight, Raul, and hopefully we'll have a third episode sometime, after the holidays.
let's try sometime next year. Maybe in the spring.
I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. So
Awesome. Thanks for coming on again.
I hope you enjoy your holiday season, sir. Thank
too.
you. Appreciate you. All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.